Now, moving on to the news in the newspapers. Thank you so much, Deeptika. Sorry, just had a little brain, as we say. Joining us on set for news around the world. They're starting with reactions from South Korea to Kim Jong-un's New Year's speech.
Well, Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, did deliver what the Korea Jungang Daily calls a strikingly conciliatory speech on New Year's Day, in which he said he was willing to send a North Korean delegation to next month's Winter Games in South Korea, and also promising to reopen a border hotline. Well, in reaction, Seoul, as you see on the front page of the paper, has proposed talks next Tuesday on its side of the border with North Korea to discuss the Games and other issues, of course.
A bit of skepticism, though, about the real motives behind Kim Jong-un's speech, though.
Well, one opinion writer in the Korea Times wonders if this, quote, olive branch from North Korea is really because it's suffering so much from U.S.-imposed sanctions that it has no other option but to reach out to the South out of pure economic necessity. Now, other conservative leaders in South Korea also believe that, or actually believe rather, that it could be a ruse to sow divisions between South Korea and the U.S. Even if this is the case, the left-leaning daily Hankyoreh says in today's editorial that South Korea must treat this proposal as a, quote, opportunity, adding not so subtly that if South Korea really had such a, quote, true alliance with the U.S., well, then Washington would have no reason to oppose these supposed warming relations between the two Koreas.
Yeah, speaking of Washington, you found some reactions to Donald Trump's tweet to Kim Jong-un. That one is by far, I think, takes the cake so far. All his tweets, it's got to be the bragging about the button.
Which many might say is a euphemism for other things, but he just keeps topping himself, doesn't he, every day. The North Korean leader may have been conciliatory with the South, as we mentioned, but he was, as ever, aggressive with the U.S. in that New Year's Day speech. And Donald Trump, not one to let things go, decided to taunt Kim Jong-un about the size of his nuclear button, saying it's bigger and more powerful. Let's look at a cartoon we found for you on Twitter. Really, it is a kind of, this Twitter beef is fodder for cartoonists. This cartoon portrays the two leaders as children fighting, with Donald Trump saying, "Hey, fatty, my button is too big for one hand. Is yours ever charged?" Of course, multiple references to previous comments that Donald Trump has made. We're the third day of 2018, and this is not even the first Twitter attack by the U.S. president. He's been busy since the beginning of the new year. As one Washington Post writer says, it may be a new year, but it's the same old Trump.
Moving on now to a social media star whose latest video has prompted a very lively debate on YouTube.
This is a pretty gory story. Logan Paul is not really well known to adult populations, but he's huge among the kids. He's a 22-year-old YouTube star with over 16 million followers on Instagram, which I'm guessing is a really big deal. He recently visited a forest in Japan that's sometimes known as the suicide forest for the number of people it draws for people who kill themselves there. Now, he filmed a dead man in a 15-minute video that was viewed over 6 million times on the first day it was posted, before it was taken off YouTube. Naturally, these actions have sparked widespread criticism and condemnation and anger. Now, Logan Paul himself has issued 2 groveling apologies, but for the website The Atlantic, he's really a product of his generation. I quote, they say, "We stuck a smartphone in every teenager's hand and told them it would make them famous. The internet's only currency is attention." Now, BuzzFeed, the website, says it's also a crucial turning point for YouTube and its inconsistent application of moderation rules. The question really remains, to what extent does YouTube encourage this kind of irresponsible behavior for clickbait?
A gory story, for sure. Here in France, moving on now, you found a piece about an ambitious move by authorities to install landlines in prison cells. It almost sounds like they're going backwards, but no.
It does. It's really interesting. It's quite controversial. French authorities have been running experiments in the past to see if this will help reduce cell phone trafficking behind bars and improve rehabilitation rates by allowing prisoners to speak on a daily basis with their family. Well, now they're going to be rolling this out across prison cells. According to the experiments, there was a 30% drop in illegal cell phone trafficking as a result result of installing these landlines. There are a couple of issues, though. One prisoner advocacy group warns that calls could be very costly, and it's inconceivable that prisoners could even pay for the calls. There are other concerns about how the calls will be monitored and vetted.
And many of them are also going towards those legal counsel and advice for those prisoners that they so desperately need. Now, finally from you, a much-loved opera is getting a feminist revamp. After all this U2, it's also being applied to Carmen?
That's right, Carmen, the world-famous opera set against the 19th century Spain, featuring a gypsy woman called Carmen and a naive soldier who falls in love with her and then kills her because she falls in love with a bullfighter. Well, now the Italian version of this story, so the original version has her being killed by Don Jose. Well, now an Italian version in Florence has subverted the ending. In their ending, she kills her jealous lover in homage to numbers of Italian women killed by their partners each year. It's the first time that the ending of Carmen has been changed. As the Opera House said, theater is not a museum. It's also a place where debate can be initiated.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.